Join the Community Wine and Spirits monthly wine club, the Mutual Satisfaction Society. You'll receive 3 carefully selected bottles every month, complete with tasting notes and detailed information on each wine, all for $90. Join in the next 24 hours and get 20% off your first shipment. Want fancier wine? We got you. Join the Mutual Satisfaction Society Plus for extra satisfaction. $150 will get you 3 very special bottles. Let us take the trouble out of selecting great wines that you will love. Your first shipment is 20% off just for listening to View the Right Thing. Join the community today at www.communitywineandspirits.com or DM us at CommunityWS.
On this episode of View the Right Thing, 4 inner-city women and best friends struggle trying to make ends meet. Their desperation turns to crime when they begin robbing banks to pull themselves out of despair. But as their crime spree escalates, a dogged detective and his partner are in pursuit to stop them, and issues of trust in the group threatens to bring them all down. Wes and Alexis chase this 1996 crime story in their commentary of Set It Off on View the Right Thing.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing. I'm Wes.
I'm Alexis.
Hi, Alexis. How you doing?
Hello, Wes. I'm great. How are you?
Great. I like great. Great is good.
Yeah.
It's better than like, I'm okay.
Right.
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Thanks for asking.
Good.
It's been a little bit since we last recorded.
Yes.
Any new exciting developments in the world? In your life? I don't...
In the world,
Yeah,
we'll pass on that. In my life, I got to see both of my parents last week.
That's great.
Yeah, it was my birthday, and I knew my dad was going to be there, and my mom surprised me.
Yeah.
And Jeff was in on the whole thing.
Oh,
he knew that she was coming, and he was like, "You might want to clean your office so that just in case someone stays." And I was like, "Is someone staying?" But it was really nice to get to celebrate and see both of my parents.
Yeah.
Because living across the country from them makes it hard to see them on a regular basis.
Yeah. That was very stealthy of him.
Totally. Then he was like, I don't want you to think that I'm a liar and that I hide things from you. I'm like, I don't. I don't at all. That was a really lovely surprise.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
What about you? What's going on in your world?
Oh, I don't know, nothing I can think of really. What's going on in my world? It's funny. I ask you this question and I'm like, yeah, she's going to have things to say. And then I don't even bother to think about whether or not I have anything to offer. So, no, there's not really a lot going on in my world.
Yeah.
Since we've last talked, don't have any big plans. I'm pretty boring. Yeah.
Not at all. You live a pretty great life.
Oh no, my life is great. I love my life.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
There's nothing interesting right now.
I'm all right with my boring. It's great. So yeah. So something I'm supposed to remember to do.
Yeah.
I've got a things that I always forget, right? So just everybody that's listening, if you have an opportunity and you want to support us, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/VTRT movies. You can find us on there, and there's a free tier. You could just follow us for free. We give little updates, and then we might sometimes do some giveaways. There's something on there right now for people who are in the paid tier. And it's just an easy way to help us out. And also you can communicate with us pretty easily that way. You can leave comments and send us messages.
Yeah.
There's other ways you can send us messages. We're on Instagram, and technically we're on X, but we don't use X as much. We're on Twitch technically.
Oh, yes.
So
Tiki-taki. TikTok.
TikTok. We are on TikTok as well. TikTok. On TikTok, we're View the Right Thing. It's all spelled out.
Oh, yes.
But generally, we're VTRT movies. That's where you can find us on Instagram. We'd love it if you would leave reviews on your preferred podcast platform. It helps us everything, listens, downloads, that's all helps us out. So
Yeah. Like, rate, subscribe, do all the things.
Click that bell. Wait, we're not on YouTube.
Oh.
Don't click any bells. Not on our behalf. But yeah, so any small thing you can do. You don't have to send us money.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a paid Patreon subscriber, although we do appreciate our paid Patreon subscribers, and we do give them a shout out. So shout out to Duane.
Hey, Duane.
Not only does he do our intro, he's a patron on Patreon. So
he's the best.
He is the best. So yeah, I don't really have any other big exciting things to talk about. We can just get into this movie if you want.
Let's get into it.
All right. So I'm dreading this question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, you go ahead and give me your the thing you do.
The plot. For Set It Off, what I have here is desperation drives 4 inner city women to bank robbery in Los Angeles. Then they start mistrusting each other.
This
right?
I don't know if I love that description, but
you
did your work, so thank you. Okay. She didn't write that.
I did not. No.
So she's not responsible. She's only responsible for reading it. Give you one job.
Oh, dang it.
All right. So the question, as always, did you enjoy this movie? That's what I was dreading.
It was okay.
You didn't seem like you enjoyed it when we were watching it.
It was not my favorite.
There was a lot of throwing of hands up in the air.
I would get frustrated. Like, why did that happen? I feel like there were some...
Well, it's definitely a product of the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The backpack at the end of the movie.
Yes.
If a article of clothing could ever represent a decade, that backpack represents the 90s.
Oh my gosh. I thought I had a backpack just like that.
I think every girl I know in the 90s had a backpack like that.
Yeah. Those slouchy backpacks where you have like the strings to pull to close the bag closed. Oh man.
They're always black leather.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, it had to be. It was the rule of the 90s, I think.
I wonder why that was like the backpack for girls to have. Like what it was about that.
The fashion industry did it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Did some influencer, I mean, we didn't call them influencers back in the 90s, but did some influencer have a bag like that? So all the girls were like...
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe it was like one of the models like started wearing one of those backpacks to be stylish, and everyone was like, well, I need to have that backpack too. If
anybody knows,
please tell us,
or has a theory, let us know, because we would really appreciate it.
Yes.
So let's get into the movie. It's viewed as one of the more important pieces of black cinema in the 90s for sure.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Yeah, we can get into that. Maybe give me some of your notes.
Okay.
And then we can kind of get into it, and I'll give you some of my notes and factoids.
Oh gosh.
Do you have notes?
I have some notes. Yeah. The movie starts off with one of the characters is a bank teller, and then someone comes in and robs the bank, and she loses her job over it.
Yeah.
Which, like, of course they're blaming the black woman for this because she knew the guy, because they both live in the projects, like, just guilty by association.
Yeah.
That shit pisses me off.
Yeah.
So from the get-go, maybe that's why I didn't like it, because I'm just like, but why can't everyone just get along? And
why? Very famous 90s LA thing to say.
Is it?
Well, yeah, that was the whole, like, the Rodney King thing. And it was like, why can't we all just get along? You don't remember that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Did I just pull that out?
Yeah.
Wow.
He just basically inadvertently quoted a really famous from the Rodney King. So there was, I don't want to get into it because I don't know the details of events in the order that happened. So I'm not going to go there. But there's a really famous quote where someone was being interviewed, and it was just like, why can't we all just get along?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I am a child of the 90s, so maybe that tracks. Um, but so the woman, Vivica A. Fox's character, loses her job because she knew the guy who... Frankie, thank you. Mm-hmm. Frankie loses her job because she knew the guy who robbed the bank. And then she and her friends are low on money, and they decide to rob banks.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe a little more goes into it, right? They are all products of circumstance, of being poor and black and women, in the 90s, and so it, there's definitely more nuance than just like
absolutely. I was what I said was a very broad statement. God, the misogyny in this film too. Like, I forgot how much the world has changed. Not to say that misogyny no longer exists, because it does, but I feel like, gosh, these women, they're women and they're black, and so it's like they have two checks against them. Like, people are just treating them like garbage.
Yeah, and I think that's, like a part of the theme, right, is that, well, okay, so let's talk about one of the reasons why this film is important.
Yes.
These women are never portrayed as a stereotypical angry black woman.
This is true.
So that's one huge piece of like why this is sort of like a seminal, black film. They're also, crime movies with black people is almost always portrayed with men. And so, and women are not excluded from not just the criminality, but the circumstances that breed criminality. And so this sort of like, I don't want to say empowers, but it shines a light on, the women that have been put in. So like modern day would be an example, would be like Sandra Bland, other women who have been put in situations where they get incarcerated and they're killed.
Yeah.
And so this movie sort of instead of embracing a bunch of stereotypes, sort of just like shows its cards and kind of, I'm fumbling through this. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but
for sure,
especially as a white guy, it's more about the injustice that they go through that puts them in the circumstance that they're in.
Yeah.
And you see that you're talking about like sort of the violence, and the misogyny is what you were talking about, but the violence towards women, and sort of like right off the bat, Stoney, Jada Pinkett's character, is put in a situation where she desperately needs this money, and there's a guy who can give her a job, but rather than giving her a job, he basically forces her to have sex with him for the money.
Yeah.
And and that's a big piece of the theme, which is what are the things that sets it off, right? What are the things that set all these things into motion? And how do you make decisions when you're that's the whole point of the opening scene, right?
Yeah.
Is she gets a gun pointed at her, Frankie gets a gun pointed at her, and there's a procedure that she's supposed to go through, and that's what ultimately leads to her partially getting fired and suspected as maybe being involved in the crime, is that she doesn't follow the procedure, and the white male cop says, what were you supposed to do? What's the procedure for this? And it comes back at the end of the film, but that's the question that's being asked throughout the movie. When your child is taken away from you because of a mistake, what are you supposed to do? Well, what led to that mistake? Well, I didn't have money for for a babysitter. So what's the procedure? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You got to earn the money no matter what. You need to try and put your brother through college. What's the procedure for this? This is the only way to do it. So that question is continually being asked throughout the film, and it's very thoughtfully put together.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to sort of just like sit back and enjoy the ride of the film. But
Right.
if you take the time to like ask that question, you see that there's a lot of work that was put into this movie.
Wow. Stepping back from it,
Yeah, right?
now I see those things.
Yeah. Well, that's why we do this, right?
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is nice that the women, how they were all portrayed, there wasn't, at least from the filmmaker's perspective, there wasn't any judgment on them and who they were and what they did.
Yeah.
Because they were all doing what they had to do out of desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And even Queen Latifah's character, Cleo,
mm-hmm.
she was a lesbian, but that wasn't like overdone.
No, and I think maybe to your point, there's a scene where they've robbed a bank and she spent some money and she bought her girlfriend like lingerie or whatever.
Yep.
And she's dancing on the car and stuff. And then the other girls come in and see all this. And I think the point of that scene, or a takeaway from that scene, is that in any other crime movie with black people in the 90s, if there's a woman dancing in her lingerie, then it's men at a strip club, right, or men in a hideout or whatever. This wasn't for men.
Yeah.
And that scene is not for the male gaze. That scene is for the lady gaze. But sorry about that. Didn't mean to just throw a pun in there. But yeah, and the people that walk into the room are the other women. It's not. There are no men in that scene. So, unfortunately, there was some negative feedback to the lesbian character on screen.
Oh, really?
Audiences didn't react very well.
Well, this was 96.
Queen Latifah used to go into screenings of the movie and just sit in the back row. And when she kisses the girl, there used to be a lot of like disgust noises and things in the theater. But especially in the 90s, I think people like view the 90s as sort of like an era where gay people like were starting to maybe kind of come into their own. The Will and Grace era.
Did that come out in the 90s?
Late 90s, I think.
Okay.
And I think you were starting to see, even though it was like you were seeing a lot of stereotype things, you were seeing it more. Ellen was the 90s. You were seeing more of it on television. Even Roseanne did a whole thing about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, for people of color, especially in Black culture, it is a topic that for a long time was very, very taboo.
Yeah.
It was something you didn't talk about or something you didn't acknowledge. That's why I think like a movie like Moonlight is really, really brilliant, where it sort of tackles this like gangland, it deals with like people stuck in addiction and stuck in a hard life, a hard, poor life, also being gay. And that's something that Black culture didn't want to talk about.
Right.
And so for this film, obviously we don't condone the reactions that people had in the theater, but like we sort of understand looking back that it was at a time where, especially in Black culture, that wasn't something that was sort of acknowledged or talked about.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah. Queen Latifah's first role in a film.
Was it really?
Yeah. Also Dr. Dre's first.
Yes, that was so exciting. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Well, it's like, oh, she recognized Dr. Dre. Yeah. It's her first lead role. Maybe she had done some supporting stuff, but this was her first lead.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She was great in it.
She really was.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that she didn't stop because she's become such a wonderful
Yeah.
like powerhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
I watched her accept a Kennedy Award last year
Oh.
and I cried. Like, go,
Did-
Diva.
Jada Pinkett wanted to play Cleo originally.
Interesting.
Yeah. But they wanted her specifically for Stoney. Like she was like the first choice,
Oh, I
I
see.
think, for Stoney.
She did a fantastic job as Stoney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she was so grounded in her character. I mean, I also think Jada is a fantastic performer as well.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's great in pretty much everything.
Right?
Yeah. And they were in, no, was it Vivica Fox? Who was in Girls Trip? It was Vivica Fox and Queen Latifah, right?
Jada
It was
in...
Jada Pinkett.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't remember who it was. If it was Vivica Fox or Jada Pinkett. So it was Jada Pinkett and
Queen Latifah.
Queen Latifah. Also an excellent movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're not talking about that. Even though I love the movie.
Oh, God. The 90s and this movie reminded me how many, how popular it was to have, not like everyone had it, but how popular it was to have hydraulics on your car.
Yeah.
The lowriders and like popping them up and down. I remember driving around in Chicago suburbs and seeing
Oh, I thought you were going to say
cars
drive
do
around
that.
in one.
Oh
Like
my
a
God.
rider that...
To be in one, that would have been kind of scary, actually. Just sitting in one place and you can get whiplash. But I thought that was too funny that that was included in the film. I mean, of course it would be. It was a fad.
Yeah.
But I had to comment on the hydraulic cars. I actually wrote, "Oh, hydraulics cars." Wow, what else?
You tell me what else.
So jumping back to when Stoney had to, she didn't have to, but she chose to sleep with that skeevy car salesman to get money for her brother to go to college, which, like,
Mac from Night Court, how dare you?
thank you. I knew I recognized him. Then when she finds out that her brother didn't actually get into college, she tears up the check.
Yeah, that's pretty baffling, right?
Then
I'm conflicted about it. Like, on one hand, I get it, and on the other hand, I don't. Like,
right, because the money is gross to her.
Yeah.
She didn't do it to have money. She did it for her brother.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah.
I'm conflicted on that one because I get it. Like, that money was gross. And I guess she doesn't want to feel like a prostitute.
Well, I think there's that. And I think also for the structure of the film, it's important because if she cashes that check, she owes that guy work, right?
Yeah.
So by her ripping that check up structurally, she doesn't, we don't have to see her at the car dealership and her trying to struggle to work those jobs. It frees her character up to be able to do these other things.
Yeah.
So structurally, it makes sense. Emotionally, it's frustrating.
Yeah. I just remember she starts tearing it up. I'm like, what are you doing?
Tape it back up.
Yeah. But I get that now. And after she tears up this check, her brother goes to the dude's house. The dude who actually robbed the bank.
Yeah.
From where Frankie, where Frankie was working and had that stupid AP fade shaved into the back of his head.
Acorn Project?
And the moment that, like, her brother, Stoney's brother, was like, I wanna get that in the back of my head, and I was like, no, don't do it.
Exactly what's gonna happen.
They're gonna think it was you because of course they never pay attention to anything except for, anyway, and John C. Reilly's character, this like macho cop, comes out and they all start shooting him. Like,
Yeah.
a ton of dudes.
He's got a gun.
And it was just a bottle of champagne. But after this kid has been shot so many times, he's like, no, somebody get me an ambulance. I'm like,
well, you know why?
Why?
Because it's procedure. What's the procedure?
That's the procedure?
Oh yeah, they have to. If they don't attempt to render aid, then they're in trouble.
Oh.
But that goes back to the whole theme, right? What's the procedure?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does feel like pointless and like silly, but
yeah,
like it all kind of makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie that I think is kind of silly. Like I think some of like the line deliveries and some of it's like really cheesy and some of it's very, very 90s and and there's some piece of this that's like you see it all happening, like it like telegraphs itself. And in some ways I think in retrospect I'm okay with it. When you're in the movie, you're sort of like, I wish this wasn't so telegraphed. I wish I didn't know. Like the moment the guy's like, oh yeah, go in the kitchen and get the haircut. It's like, you're like, oh man, what's happening now? And so you're just like sort of waiting for this thing and dreading this thing. Yeah. It's sort of like, somebody's going to die in that bank at the end. But I think again, like I was saying, in retrospect, I'm more okay with it because it's, a symptom of what society is actually like.
Yeah.
And you sort of know like these traffic stops are going to go wrong because of the way society treats people of color.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the what a lot of people call the bastardization of the police, right? The whole ACAB thing and the idea that police are sort of trained to react, not respond.
Right.
And so yeah, you again, in retrospect, it's sort of like, okay, knowing the foreshadowing is sort of okay because it's a reference to how we actually live our lives and know sort of the outcomes of things ahead of time.
Wow.
Yeah, gross, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the lines that I had to write down was, when they're like, we need to rob banks. Why? Yeah. We're just taking away from the system that's fucking us all anyway. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
And they had to do what they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't condone bank robbery, and we don't really believe that they had to do, but for the entertainment. And
yes.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, no, I do not condone robbing a bank. Don't do that. It's not safe. It's not good.
Yeah.
But boy, Cleo, after that first run at the bank.
Oh, she was hooked.
Yeah, it was like a drug. She's like, I want more.
Yeah.
I love this. And she spent so much money. And while we were watching it.
She clearly hasn't seen Goodfellas.
Truly. Oh, gosh. Like.
Check out the Goodfellas episode of Do the Right Thing.
Yes. Nice little callback.
Yeah.
But then they complain to her that she's been fired from the house, the cleaning job, Luther's cleaning. But then she shows up to go to work anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just like she knows that Luther will give her the job back, and so she's just going to show up like as if I got wasted over the weekend and got it in my head that I didn't need the job, but I really do need the job. And,
yeah.
And she makes a point of telling him she's broke.
Oh, right.
Which smart move.
Yep. Clever.
Yes.
It's interesting that Stoney starts dating the
Blair Underwood's character.
Yes, Was this Blair Underwood's first acting gig too? Because wasn't he a
No.
football player?
He was on like L.A. Law, wasn't he? At the end of the 80s?
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure he was a lawyer on L.A. Law.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I mean, I can look him up if you want.
Yeah. I just the pairing of them was so random. And no, you don't think so?
Random? Not about random. Why do you feel like it's random? I'm open to hearing your interpretation.
Well, it didn't, to me, it didn't seem like I don't know. It didn't seem like she really liked him. Like maybe she was just using him, but then like later on, it seemed like she was getting feelings for him, which would make sense because she told him to leave the bank.
I thought she liked him from the beginning.
You did?
Yeah, I thought it was that she didn't think she deserved him because she was from the wrong side of the tracks.
Oh, interesting.
Like this couldn't work because I'm not good enough.
Yeah, he was definitely from they were from opposite sides of the track.
Meanwhile, he's like the perfect guy to her, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, I'm not asking anything of you. Just hang out. Let me listen to you talk.
Oh.
What a sweet guy.
Yeah. He was a sweet guy.
By the way,
yes.
Blair Underwood, Knight Rider, all the way back to 1985, first role.
Whoa.
Cosby Show, 21 Jump Street.
Oh my gosh.
This is your pilot speaking. L.A. Law, 149 episodes of
Holy
L.A. Law.
crap. Wow.
He was in Just Cause. That was before this.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Their sex scene was different.
very 90s music video.
Very 90s music
Those
video.
Candles in the foreground.
Candles, the oil.
Yeah.
That's not in a regular oil bottle. It's just like in this fancy jar. Like I keep my oil, my body oil in this nice jar with a cork.
That's rich people oil.
Oh, okay.
It was olive oil. And he just got it off his stove.
And dragging his necklace on her back.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I was weirded out by that. I was like, keep that necklace away from her butt crack.
Right. It definitely gave 90s music video vibes.
Which I was pointing out to you that F. Gary Gray, who I love as a director, did this. He did Friday. Listen to our Friday episode of View the Right Thing with our buddy Daniel Weiss. Straight Outta Compton. But he also did and a whole bunch of other movies. But he did a bunch of music videos. He did a bunch of stuff for TLC. He did It Was a Good Day with Ice Cube. He did stuff with Usher, Barry White. Like this guy's a prolific 90s music video, black music video director.
Wow.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. Tone Loc. Let me pull up his thing here. Cypress Hill. Coolio, Fantastic Voyage. Outkast. Obviously Dr. Dre, Queen Latifah, TLC. So he did Waterfalls, Digging on You.
Oh my gosh, Waterfalls? Yes.
Yeah. Whitney Houston, Babyface.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Will Smith, R. Kelly. R. Kelly. Oh, he did Miss Jackson.
What?
Outkast. Yeah. Yeah, he's been around. But he did the movie The Italian Job.
Yeah.
He did, what else did he do? Be Cool with John Travolta.
Oh wow.
The sequel to Get Shorty.
Yeah, that's right.
The Fate of the Furious. So if you've seen Fast 8.
Oh.
Men in Black International with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's legit.
I just looked him up. His face looks so familiar.
Yeah, he does, right?
Yeah.
I think he did Friday.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. Didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
He did Friday.
Yeah.
The negotiator.
The
He's
Negotiator.
done lots.
Yeah, he's worked with a lot of people, and
This guy.
yeah, he's great. I love him as a director.
Yeah. It feels like this maybe was one of his earlier.
For features, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Friday had happened by this point, I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Friday had already happened. I'm trying to like flip through his. Yeah, Friday was
95.
95, so
Yeah.
we'll set it off.
96.
96, okay.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
People should hire him more.
I agree. We like you.
We like you, F. Gary Gray. So this movie was made in under 2 months.
Oh my
39
gosh.
days. Only $9 million.
Wow.
Would you like to
How?
guess what half of that money went to?
Crashing through the buildings.
No. I will tell you, half of the money went to one thing. Half of the budget went to one thing.
What?
It's going to blow your mind. But I still want you to guess because it's fun. It's fun for me.
Hmm? Helicopters.
It was not helicopters.
Was it using that bank?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Not a location.
What?
I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. Half of the budget went to securing the rights to the music from The Godfather.
Oh my. For that one scene?
That one scene. I mean, they used the fuck out of that song.
Yeah,
but,
they did. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. I would never have expected that.
Yeah.
But that,
It's a lot of money.
yeah, that's a lot of money for one scene.
Yeah.
It was a clever scene.
It was fun. It was silly.
Yeah.
Funny.
You know, with the
Grapes.
Vivica's face with her, like, the grapes put.
Yeah.
She did a good job. They
Yeah.
all did. I loved it. Yes, let me. Oh my God. Wow.
Don Stoney.
Yes, Don Stoney.
Glenn.
Don Cleo. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The soundtrack to this movie,
Mhm.
since we're talking about music,
Yeah.
was very popular
Yeah.
in the 90s. It was, and I think it hit like number 4 on the Billboard charts, and they gave this away to people who would go see other movies that this studio had made.
Oh.
So they're like, oh yeah, go see The Long Kiss Goodnight, and then they give you, a copy of the movie, or a copy of the soundtrack.
I mean, the soundtrack has En Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
It has.
She's about to look it up.
Oh my
folks.
gosh. There's Burn a Block, Down on My Luck. That soundtrack was really great. It brought me back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All the good 90s music.
Yeah. Any other exciting notes?
They talk about their goings on in public far too often and far too loud. Like they're talking about in one of the earlier scenes. I think it was the first bank they robbed. They're like, but we didn't talk about robbing this bank. I'm like, girl, your voice is echoing.
Yeah, it carries. It carries in a marble hallway.
Yeah. And then later when they're at the coffee shop eating the meal that they can't pay for, so they just dine and dash.
Boo.
Boo. I get it. But like what? You just think that they would talk about those things in a more private manner so that they don't get caught.
No, yeah.
'Cause I mean, their disguises, wigs and sunglasses.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, those were not. Like, for the love, put something on your face that makes you look different.
There's a reason the boy Keith recognizes Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was just her face with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
The one to Sean, how interesting / random that she's the first one to kill anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, the one that you don't expect.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even want to be, she didn't go through with the first robbery.
No.
Because she was too afraid.
Yep.
But then.
She definitely was the most timid out of all of them.
Totally.
But it speaks to the loyalty of the friendship that they all had. Would you like to guess what movie inspired this idea? Think of the era.
The 90s. What movie?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
It makes sense now, right?
it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't they reference Thelma and Louise?
They might have. I don't
Yeah.
remember. They one of the producers saw Thelma and Louise and then like came up with this idea. So they hired a writer and
Wow.
studio greenlit it and off to the races.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
I get it. It's women coming together.
Mm-hmm. The loyalty and
Yeah.
sort of like, you know,
Trying to get out of a bad situation.
flipping off, you know,
Yeah.
the odds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Oh.
Going through the tunnel
Yeah.
toward the end, when they start going through the tunnel and they're like, we lost him, as if there's not
A helicopter.
only one other way to get out, and
Yeah.
the helicopter has been following them.
Yeah.
That just amused me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they still sort of got away with it
Yeah.
because only Cleo was in the car and was able to create a distraction so that the other two could get away.
So that line, do we attribute that to maybe bad writing, or do we attribute that to like an example of how inexperienced they really are?
You know, it could be a mixture of... I don't know necessarily if I would call that bad writing, because they're also freaking out.
Yeah. Well, so I asked the question because I tend to want to give, when we're talking about movies on the podcast, there's plenty of movies that we talk about that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I try my best to give the movies the benefit of the doubt before I criticize it. So I just was trying to ask that question just because I'm not sure if, like, my instinct would have been like, oh, that's bad writing. But see, sort of putting myself in check. I wonder.
I think talking about the protocol.
Yeah. What's the procedure?
What is the procedure?
Yeah.
Well, they don't know the procedure.
Yeah, the procedure's out the window.
There is no procedure.
Yeah.
And so it's like, for those few moments when they're inside the tunnel, they have freedom.
Yeah.
And as a person who is freaking out, there's really one of two ways, if not one way, to get out of this whole situation. And so they're like, okay, we got away from them. You did. For a moment.
Yeah. Now back to reality.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, as I'm still trying to figure out, how did Frankie end up back on a main street? I would have been hiding and ducking and avoiding any large street whatsoever, and she is in the middle of a huge street, and they find her.
Yeah, that's actually not my question. So I can reason that out, right?
Okay.
I mean, we can do that with anything.
Sure.
But, so I could reason that out with, she's in an alley and a cop sees her in the alley and chases her and gets her, and she has nowhere to go, so she ends up on a main street, right? So there's, lots of ways we could reason those things. The real question I have is, if they're holding her at gunpoint, why are they allowing traffic to move directly behind her? Because they fired those guns at her. I could easily have gone and hit any of those people. That's the question.
Yeah.
Because they were clearly on her long enough that they could have been hold this bus up.
Right.
We need a gap in the street.
Right.
So that was...
Well, and the whole time...
I mean, obviously it's for thematic effect so he can see her.
Right.
And choose to let her go.
Yeah. After Frankie was shot, because, and she pulls her gun on... I don't love that she pulled her gun on a cop, but I love that.
You heard it here. Alexis hates cops.
She pulls her gun and says, "What's the
What's
procedure?"
the procedure?
And shows him how scary and unknown all these feelings are. You can know how to do something perfectly every single time, but when you're put under pressure, it's so easy to freeze. And he did.
Well, and he had the realization too. That was part of it, right?
Yes.
Is that all the things that you're saying, and also that the procedure isn't always fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why he lets her go. Why he lets Stoney go, right? Is that he's like, the procedure is stop that bus. But if I do that, I'm gonna have a fourth dead girl on my hands.
Yeah.
So he chooses to let her go.
Yeah.
He makes a new procedure.
He does make a new procedure. And I love that Stoney does get away. And she finally gets to go somewhere that is out of Southern California.
Yeah. Yeah.
She I don't know where she went.
Baja.
She went to Baja?
That's what the bus says.
I missed that. It was like, cool. She's getting on a bus with other sombreros people.
bunch of white people wearing sombreros.
Yeah. And it's so sweet that she calls
Keith. Yeah.
And he knows that it's her, even though she doesn't say anything at the beginning. And it's like he forgave her.
Oh, for sure.
Even though she caused absolute havoc on his job.
Yeah.
He could have gotten in serious trouble for being acquainted with her.
Yeah. I think that was one of the beautiful things about Keith is that he, it was never about him.
Yeah.
It was always about her. Their whole relationship was about her, and he intended it to be that way. It was, I want to listen to you. I want you to experience things. I want you to think about going out of the state. I want you to have a nice dress. This was never about him. It was never about like what he was going to get out of this.
Yeah.
And so forgiving her, I think, is like a no-brainer because it's not about him.
Yeah.
It's about what she needs and making sure she's okay. And she was.
Gosh, my outlook on this movie is
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's Cat Ballou all over again.
Right. It really is.
Yeah.
Oh. So this is why it's important to talk about films.
Yeah. No, you're right. Is one of the reasons why we do the podcast, and also, we have to just like remember that there's reasons that all these movies are in the bucket.
Yeah.
That, very, very few of them are just things that we're just like, oh, I just really like this bad movie. I want to throw it in there. But yeah, I mean, they all have a reason for being there, whether they're, culturally significant or they were phenomenons for there's a lot of bad movies that are just phenomenons,
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's culturally significant. Sometimes these are just like purely aesthetic. I think a lot about how the Library of Congress pulls movies into into preservation.
Yeah.
And it's because they have some sort of significant cultural or aesthetic impact. It's like, there's another word, cultural, might be historical, like historical, cultural, or aesthetic importance to film.
Yeah.
And so they enshrine them in the Library of Congress.
Wow.
For all time. And that's a lot of these movies are that, things that are either culturally or aesthetically important.
Wow.
So it'd be it's easy to dismiss these like, low budget 90s, because it's $90 is not a big budget. Even for the 90s, these sort of low budget films with directors that most people didn't really know at the time.
Yeah.
Or even today. A lot of people still don't know who F. Gary Gray is, which is a crime.
Yes.
But yeah, it's here for a reason.
Wow.
And nobody goes out to make a bad movie.
No.
Nobody intends to make a bad movie. They don't intend it may end up being bad, and then they embrace the fact that it's bad after the fact.
Yes.
Looking at you, Tommy, why so?
That's exactly.
Yeah. But nobody intends to make a bad movie.
Yeah. I'm glad we watched this.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Friendship and movies. I hope people that listened watched it, and if they didn't, maybe they're interested in watching it now. Hopefully, that's the. Oh, you asked me what I'd done recently. I did do something really, and I feel really bad that I didn't say it, and I'm so sorry to Phil. I'm sorry. Okay, let me explain myself real quick. When we start an episode, I am so frazzled thinking about like all the things that I need to do that I don't think about things. And so to Phil, my friend Phil, I'm very sorry I didn't mention this at the top, but I'm going to mention it now. I was a guest on another podcast. And so I probably should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, a little cross promotion.
Little cross promotion. It's called Cinema, Life, and Everything. I know you can listen to it on Spotify. I'm sure you might check out some other places, but definitely you can check it out on Spotify. And it's just about your favorite films and why you love them, and just sort of just two friends just discussing why you love the movies. And so the three movies I chose were E.T., of course, my favorite film of all time, Jaws, and Sunrise, the sort of silent film from the late 1920s. Yeah, so we discussed those movies, and so you should definitely check out Phil's podcast. I'm so sorry, Phil, that I didn't mention it at the top of the podcast, but I'm doing it now. What a beautiful, lovely human being he is. He's fun to talk with. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go listen to it.
Sorry. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. back to why, but that's why we're talking about why we do this, and glad that we watch movies with our friends and talk with our friends and stuff. And then it just clicked in my brain that I didn't talk about talking with my friend. Yeah. So, anyways, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss about this particular film?
I don't think so, other than there was one inanimate object character that I think could have not been in this film.
Inanimate object character.
It was the damn toothpick.
Oh, yeah.
The damn toothpick in his mouth.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a reference to something. Or just they've just like he maybe some actors are like, I need a pen, I need to hold a pen, I need a thing, and maybe that was
toothpick.
I'm curious to see if maybe he if he does that, something similar to that in other movies. Maybe not a toothpick, but like a pen. Like on Scrubs, was he always like gesturing with something? Or
interesting.
Maybe he just felt he needed some sort of affectation. I think this character, or not the character, but the actor, John C. McGinley, who I mentioned was on Scrubs as well.
Yes.
He played, I think, a detective chasing. What am I thinking of?
The Fugitive?
Is he? No, he's not the Fugitive.
He's not?
No, he's not the Fugitive, I don't think. Point Break.
Oh, Point Break.
He's in Point Break.
Yes.
Which is also about bank robbers. And yeah. So I think he's one of the detectives that chase them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder if he had a toothpick in that one.
I know. Let's go back and watch Point Break. I'll do respect to Keanu and Patrick Swayze, but I'm good. Yeah. That remake was gross.
Ooh.
All right. Well, then I don't have anything else to. Okay. Oh, we should probably draw a movie.
Yeah.
We'll get the bucket. This is me being not prepared.
Okay.
Hand is in the bucket.
Ooh, so many little. Ooh. Do you want me to read it?
I mean, it's in your hand.
Okay. So. Next up is Grease.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh boy, we talk about wanting to be positive in these movies.
Two very different yays in this podcast.
Yeah. Historically, it's not been my favorite films, but you know what? I'm going to go into a positive attitude.
Yeah.
We'll watch it and see how it goes.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad that you're excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you're excited. So therefore, we're both excited. All right, everybody. Until next time, bon cinema.